Hi everyone, I'm with Canadian UFC Fighter, Tristan Connelly, and welcome to my show, man.
Hey man, thanks for having me here.
No problem, man. How are you feeling? Like, how's everything? How are you recovering?
I'm feeling pretty good. I just actually had surgery 2 days ago. Got out released from the hospital yesterday. Kept me overnight, but I feel good right now. I mean, that's typically how things that go. My arm pain is gone. That I had my nerve pain. I can't really test the strength that I have yet, but as far as my throat, is the only thing that's a little bit sore. But other than that, it's the hardest thing is going to be taking it easy for the next little while.
Mm-hmm.
And not overdoing it because I got to be super careful, make sure I don't screw this thing up.
Well, it's bad enough that the COVID's around, and now that you even have to stay more like you have to kind of take it easy even more. So that must be pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having to take it easy for a while. I've been trying to rehab this thing on my own, and it wasn't getting better to the point I couldn't train live. All I could do was hit pads and hit the bag and lifting weights. My arm was super weak. I had a herniated disc in my neck from a car accident, and I did. I really tried everything I could. And just early this week, we decided, it's been long enough. That apparently, when the weakness goes on too long, it can be an issue, a big issue. So decided to operate. Got a fake disc in my neck now, so I'm a little bit more robot. So looking to put that in my game.
Get like a live cyborg here then.
Exactly.
But it's good to hear that you're recovering slowly but surely. And yeah, so what about like the UFC? Are they pretty understanding about everything?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm actually going to go on down to the PI here next month. Start my rehab. I know the first month, surgeons like just walk, keep your neck brace on. I guess the idea is they want the disc to really start to adhere to the bone, and then
Mm-hmm.
after that, it's progressing slowly from there. And so I can start doing stuff with the PI staff. They know they've dealt with these things before. Chris Weidman's got the same
Yeah.
disc as me. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to seeing what they think. And, yeah, I'm hoping for a full recovery. I know Chris loves his. I know a few other people with these discs, and they all love them. So I'm, fingers crossed everything goes well, and I'm able to get back in there early next year.
Okay, so that's kind of what your recovery is. Your
Yeah,
recovery
that's
date
what
is
what
looking.
where that's what I talked to Chris, talked to the surgeon. He said they're like, um, maybe 3 to 4 months I can start doing live training. But I haven't really got all the information yet. Chris said he was about 3 months. He started grappling and sparring tentatively, but by 4 months he's going 100%. So if I can get there, then I can get to a camp and then we can fight. So I'm hoping early next year is kind of my realistic timeline.
Okay. And where are you currently? Are you still? Where are you currently residing at?
I live in actually a city called Langley, just outside of Vancouver. Right
Okay.
now I'm in Victoria, which is where I'm from. My
Mm-hmm.
parents' house because I came over here to get surgery. It's Canadian healthcare. There's a lot of waiting, and plus that
Yeah.
I knew the surgeon over here. I knew was the big reason. I knew his reputation, knew people he had operated on. He and I, when someone opening your neck up, you want to do your research, and so
Yeah.
um, I'm sure there was great surgeons in Vancouver too, but I had a bit of rapport with this guy. I know people he's operated on. He got me in, and you know what? I gotta give him a huge shout out because usually you wait quite a while to get these things. He was leaving town. He got me in right away. Within 2 days, I was on the operating table, and he got it done. So, my hometown really took care of me. So now I'm just sitting here with my wife and I got a newborn baby girl. 8 weeks tomorrow, so we're just hanging out with my parents and relaxing.
Well, congrats. I mean, that's kind of the ups there for sure.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. No, I mean, life is good, man. Like, obviously this sucks, but I'm pretty durable guy. I don't get hurt very often. Say, took a car accident to do it, and I've got my gym's doing well. We're in the middle of renovating that and moving that. We got my new baby. Fatherhood's awesome. You know, it's kind of a perfect storm with COVID and everything happening right now. It's like, well, I'm moving the gym, and the baby came when nothing's going on. I'm injured, so it's like, you know, if I have to deal with this was the time to do it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's you know, there's always ups and downs with everything. It's a pretty big down, but I'm a pretty positive guy. I'm sure I'll come back. We'll get over it.
Well, it certainly sounds like you're trying to say half glass full for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. You got it. You know, I've dealing with, especially with this, dealing with this and the pain I was in. I mean, I'm a professional fighter, and this is the worst pain I've ever been in by a long shot.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, talking to all the doctors and practitioners, and it's like people that don't think they're going to get better typically don't. And those that do, you know, even if they don't get 100%, they get way better than everyone else. And, you know, we can't control everything, but what I can control is I can do everything to make sure that I get as good as I can. And, you know, that's where we'll get to, right?
Yeah, and with the injury that you had sustained, do you have any doubts that, you know, say if you get back to fighting again, do you think that that could present another injury just from the typical being on the ground?
From this, you know, from what I've talked to, you know, like Eddie Bravo's got 2 in his neck. He's getting choked all the time. Chris is like, man, I've been punched, kicked, choked, everything's been, and he's had it for a couple of years now, no issues. My other buddy, I think he's probably close to 50 now, but like super active guy, kite surfs, mountain bike. Like, man, I've gone flying on, landed on my head off my mountain bike. I've been ripped, like kite surfing. They just get torn away, and like you hit the water going breakneck speeds. And he's like, never had any issue. So I'm anticipating not. I mean, with these things, you never know. I always seem to recover well, so I'm, you know, I say I can't make any predictions, but I'm keeping real positive about it, and I think that likely I'm more likely to hurt other things than this, as long as I don't do anything too quickly, as long as I do rehab it properly and let the bone really heal to the disc. I think that's my biggest concern is with making sure I don't jump back to things too quickly.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really optimistic about everything, and that's good. I think you're going to do fine. You know, with other fighters and other trainers, if they've had the same thing that's happened, hopefully, you know, I think that and they seem to be doing okay. I mean, congrats to Wyman, who just pulled off a win like last week or something. So, you know, I think everything's going to be okay.
I think so too. These things are, from what I understand, they're better than your own discs. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, well, you're part cyborg now, so it should be. But kind of sidetracking from there now. So, kind of being a Victoria native, how does it feel to represent Canada in the UFC?
Oh, it feels awesome. You know, I mean, just getting there to begin with was you know, a dream come true. It's something. It's something when I first started fighting. I started really late. I think I was 25 when I had my first fight. I was 5-5 at one point. I had no amateur fights. Just kind of dove right into it because I loved it. And getting that opportunity to, especially have a big splash like I did and represent my country, it's you know, I can't wait to do it more. And it means the world. I mean, I love the best country in the world. I know maybe you think differently, but
well,
I've had it, and I look forward to giving it all the love I can.
Well, absolutely, and it's great. Like me being a Canadian myself, it's nice to kind of see. I am. I'm from. I'm sorry.
You're Canadian too? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm from Ontario, so a little in the middle of Canada there. And it's nice as a Canadian to see more Canadian fighters getting back into the UFC. I mean, I think for a while we kind of lost a little bit of that. Like there wasn't many UFC fighters out there. Like, but now we're starting to see yourself, Felicia Spencer. I know a couple other even local guys that I know that kind of left, whether they retired or, you know, they went into another organization or whatever. But it's really nice to really see a lot more of these guys like Tanner Boser. A lot of these fighters that are coming in, and it's nice to see that mix again. And so I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to, I'm a fan of UFC, but I want to see some UFC Canadian fighters come in and see and represent Canada, show what Canada's got. So
Yeah, man,
it's nice
we're
to see
you know
that.
what the when we travel around, my buddy Cole Smith, he's fighting here soon September 5th, I think, in Vegas. So we're going down to that. But like when we go travel around, like we're not that the skill level is great everywhere, but we're also sort of underwhelmed to the point where we've got really good guys here. Like when we go down to Vegas, the sheer numbers they have is what's impressive. There's a lot of like everyone's good, and there's 50 people in a room. Our rooms might not be as big, but we got really good guys here, and really good training. And I think that you're gonna see a lot more guys from the West Coast coming up here soon, because we got a few guys coming up. Obviously TriStar, they always got Faraz knows how to build them, man. They're real good out
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah, I know and I know that he typically likes to take a lot of fighters from the States as well, not just Canadians. And he's done a lot of good things with a lot of guys that have either they're trying to find a new coach or trying to change their level their game a little bit. Like I know you've seen Motown Phenom. He's gone over there to up his game a little bit, and he's looked like a completely different fighter ever since. So Faraz, he's done a lot of good things over there, and you got to give the guy props.
He's
And
a very intellectual guy. Like hearing
yes,
talks and hearing the way. And I've been there a couple times. I'm looking to actually. I was hoping to go back here this year sometime. We're back for a couple months, but then COVID and all this happened, and so it's still in the plans. Hopefully next year.
oh, that's good. That's good. And kind of moving on here. So, what made you get into UFC in the first place? Or
I was
sorry,
MMA.
MMA. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up
Yeah,
the
yeah.
words.
Well, it's honestly, it kind of did happen in that order, actually. First up, I think it was 19, maybe 20. Walked past a jiu-jitsu club, and I was, I always wanted to try. I was always had a fascination with martial arts, but I never really got into them when I was younger. And so I went in and did one class, and I was absolutely hooked. Like what is this grapple? Like it was just, it was a Japanese jiu-jitsu club in Victoria here called Victoria Jiu-Jitsu Academy at the time, and
Hmm.
it was actually a Japanese jiu-jitsu place, but the guy Ari that ran it focused a lot on Newaza. So I went into a Newaza class, and which was all obviously the ground stuff was essentially just rolling Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Hmm.
exact same thing, and I fell in love immediately. And from there, I wanted to compete. Tried some kickboxing, wanted to compete, and I did some pancration competitions. Won some of them. Like I caught the bug, and I knew it was exactly what I wanted to do. I hadn't even watched UFC until I started doing that. It was with that that club they started. Like, oh yeah, UFC's on tonight. This is our all pay per view still, and like we're gonna watch them. Come over to coach's house, and we're gonna sit there and watch. And I was hooked immediately.
Hmm.
And I went right, like I said, no amateur fights. I had a couple pancration tournaments I did, and I won them. And then from there, I went and jumped. Or I got offered a pro fight as a blue belt in jiu-jitsu with relatively no striking whatsoever, and I won my first fight, and it was off to the races.
Bro, nice man. And I mean, so you kind of knew, obviously, so you knew what UFC was. You kind of knew it being basically the biggest organization.
Yeah,
So, and that's kind of what really got you hooked, eh?
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think really. I didn't even know what like Pride was at the time. Like as far as I knew, UFC was the only organization. All I
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
when I
basically.
started watching was, as a kid, there's three UFC 1, 2, and 3 VHSs for rent, and they always be like, "Oh, you can't rent those. You got to be an adult." They wouldn't rent us to them. So, um, that's all I kind of knew was the human cockfighting side of it. That was, and then of course you start watching it, and you're like, "Oh, this
Hmm.
isn't bad as people make it out to be." Especially if you're doing some grappling stuff, you're like, "Oh, I know what he's doing there, and what he's doing there," and I'm like, I could. At first, you're like, "Oh, I'd never do that." And then after you've done a bit of kickboxing, but grappling, you're like, I could do that. It's not that hard.
Right, right. And I mean, now that you've been on like a 5-win streak with Cage Sport, FC, and now UFC included, how does that make you feel? Does it give you a lot of confidence for your future fights?
Yeah, one thing that I was, like I said, I was 5-5. My record's now 14-6. So I'm won in my last 10. I had no amateur fights. Most of my losses were, I had 4 decision losses. One loss where I won the first round and I got slammed in the second round, separated my AC joint and tried
Ooh.
off the whole. I fought off my back for the whole time and just couldn't figure. I stood up and I'm like, oh, my arm's dislocated. Another one, my last loss was to Shane Campbell, who's a UFC vet, a K1 vet, had over 100 fights. And we had a scrap, and he,
Mm-hmm.
he bar at the end of the third round. A little bit me sleeping, a little bit him on it, like how we were tired. It was a 5-round fight. It was a grind. He had won the first 2 rounds for sure. Third round, I was picking up, it was closer. I was starting to gain some steam. I heard the 10-second clap. I picked him up, slammed him. He rolled for the knee bar. Remember thinking like the round's going to end. I'm good. And then it's just like, oh shit, no, I got to tap. And like there was 4 seconds left in the round. And so I learned a valuable lesson there. Like, you gotta go till that bell goes. But, I'm confident now. Like early on, it was just mostly mistakes of playing jiu-jitsu off my back, like just sort of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I was never getting beat. I was just losing a positional fight. And so I've learned, I should have learned those mistakes in amateur fights. Now I feel
Yeah.
like I understand the sport of MMA. I'm not trying to kickbox and do jujitsu, which is what I kind of felt like early on. I was either kickboxing or doing jujitsu. And I was like, I was on my back, I was attacking, and MMA fighters are good at avoiding submissions. And, I'm not taking damage, I'm not finishing them. Now I feel like I'm a truly, I'm always improving, but I'm a complete mixed martial artist. I'm very mentally strong. I know going to a fight what my mindset needs to be and how I need to approach it, because honestly, there's a lot of guys that are absolute killers in the gym and they just can't figure that mindset side of things out. And it's, you can be, I'm not the craziest athlete in the world, but I'm unbreakable when I'm in there. And that is what I think separates me from a lot of the other guys.
Yeah, 100%. I do want to kind of bring that back to one of my future questions for you. But I mean, last fight you fought I think, confusing and
It's
difficult reading kind of
Yeah.
fighter, Michel Pereira. I think a lot of people consider him to be, a big hype. But I mean, you figured him out, you beat him. And I mean, how difficult was that fight for you? Because he throws a lot of unorthodox,
Yeah.
like,
I
or
Well,
strikes.
I do have the benefit of, I've been training with some capoeira guys for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly a guy named Radley De Silva, this kid has been doing capoeira and MMA since he was in diapers. He can do it all. He can box, he can wrestle, he can kickbox. He can grapple, like crazy grappler. In high school, he just went in and without any grapple or wrestling experience, he was just beating all the wrestlers at his high school, and they wanted him to go to nationals. He's like, I'm good. But he's been getting capoeira. He comes from a capoeira family, so this kid can jump, flip, spin on a dime. He's actually cousin to you. Everyone's seen Marcus Aurelio, who it's the first the spinning wheel kick viral video, or guy, he missed the first one and came around with the second one and just clocked the guy. Like the sound was like nothing I've ever heard, like twice as loud as Edson Barbosa. Said he shattered his heel on the guy's face when he hit him. That was about,
Ooh,
yeah. He's the cousin of them, so I've been training them too. So I've
okay.
had the benefit of like, they're not like Michel. Michel's, he's on a bit of a different tier with what he does, but again, they spin, they jump, they do unpredictable things. So I'm used to it. It wouldn't phase me as much, and I know what they're trying to do when they do that. And so as soon
Right.
as I had 5 days, but me and Radley just got together every day, and we're like, as soon as he does this, he's just trying to get you to freeze. All he's trying to do is, because when he flips and jumps and you go, what's he doing? And you try and track him and you freeze, he comes out of that and smashes you with something. So like
Right.
you see, he starts flipping. I was just like, get out of there, just move, move, move. And he started spinning. I was like, you never go into a spin. You run away from the spin, right? So that way, if he does hit you with something, it's coming off of the momentum. You never want to, when someone's spinning, whatever that comes from that direction is going to be very powerful. So if you look early on in the fight, I was like, when he starts doing weird stuff, I was just getting out of there, started spinning, ran away with the spin, and then as soon as I felt him sort of slow down a bit, it's like, okay, now he's not going to have the energy to do any of that because I know how much energy it takes. Now it's my world. Now he needs to rest. And I'm like, nah, I'm just not going to let him rest. I'm just going to just be on him. And especially I felt him hit me a couple times. I was like, well, that's not going to be enough to do it. So I know I don't really have to worry. I can just walk forward and go until until one of us goes down or the bell goes.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know, like, kind of, I don't want to like take away the spotlight from you, but I remember the first fight I think I watched him in. It might have been I think his first fight in the UFC was before he fought you, or it might have been. I'm
Yeah,
not
I was
sure.
his second fight. He
I
fought Danny Roberts and put him out of
Yeah,
there right away. Like just looked awesome, you know. And so
yeah,
Danny made all the mistakes. He
yeah.
watched him. He followed him. He's like, what is he doing? And Danny's an awesome fighter. Like Danny's an absolute killer. It
Mm-hmm.
was, I think, that not having that experience of these unorthodox guys and knowing. Plus, I fight. My style of fighting is I'm a pressure fighter. I'm on you. I don't want the most explosive guy, but I have crazy cardio. And it also was a bit of that, I dealt with the kind of stiff stuff before, so I was comfortable. I wasn't phased by it. And my style of pressure was very hard for someone like Michel that uses a lot of energy. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of a perfect storm in that regard. With Danny, Michel started dancing and he kind of watched him a bit. It slowed him down and it had its effect that Michel wanted. Now,
Yeah.
Michel plays a big risky game, right? Like if it works, it works impressively. But if it doesn't, it's a lot of energy. And when he fought Diego, I thought, obviously he made that mistake in the end, and it sucks. It sucks for Diego. It sucks for him. It sucks for everybody. It was just that's no. I understand why. Like it's things happening fast. Diego's hands were up, grabbing Michel's hands, and I think in a fight, you're looking for the hands and the knee, the feet and maybe he looked at the hands and probably didn't see the knee down because Diego's probably a little higher up, and he just by the time he kneed, it was too late. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he meant to do it. It was an honest mistake. I thought he fought really well. He did some of his flashy stuff, but he definitely kept it a bit more reserved. He recovered more between them. I thought he fought a great fight. But that being said, you can't foul a guy that badly in the last 30 seconds of the fight and expect them to continue. Can't
Mm-hmm.
expect Diego to. I mean, to be fair, apparently Diego's ribs are broken from a legal knee before, so now he's had time to sit on it, and he got knee in the head, and you can't expect him to continue. So it's kind of just shit for everyone in that sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to kind of see, fighters like that. Like everyone thinks, oh, this guy's awesome. This guy's, but you
You
gotta
love or hate him.
that's be pretty believable that disrespect to him. I mean, it's cool what he does. It's flashy. It's entertaining. But I don't like when people get on this hype train of, oh, this guy's gonna be the. You kind of have to watch.
You
You have
kind of
to
watch.
know MMA. You have to watch. You have to know fighting to really understand what fighters are doing. And just because you get a nice knockout doesn't mean that they're going to be the next. It's
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
you
And
have to
I think
watch.
I think he gets a lot of people. He's a love or hate type of guy. He'll either love it or they absolutely hate it. And I
Mhm,
mean, it's still a sport, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to find the hard way to win. Most fighters, we go, okay, what's the easiest way to win, right? Like I say, I don't practice any of that because punching, choking, and kicking seems to be what wins most fights. So that's what I
yeah.
practice. But to be fair, man, he's like, I want to be entertaining. I want to be the guy outside. He's like, that's almost more important to him than winning. And I my hat's off to the guy. Despite the love hate that he gets, like he's true to his guns and he wants to do things the hard way. He wants to do
Mhm,
something. He doesn't want to do it the same way as everyone else. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think he's got an uphill battle with it, and it's going to be very hard. But he also has some physical gifts that might allow him to do stuff that the rest of us can't. And I hope that he finds a way to have success in his style, because if he does, it's going to be real fun for the rest of us. Because I'm a fan of the guy. I was a fan before. Like I'm like this is like I didn't get into the fight game because I wanted to be the best or I wanted to make money. Like I would have got this a long time ago. I just love fighting. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the sport. I'm a
yeah.
fan of martial arts. I decided I want my life to be involved in this for the rest of my life. It makes me happy, and I'm a fan of the guy, and I wish him all the best. He was one of the nicest guys too. Like I wasn't even sure if he knew that I was the guy he was fighting when he came up and talked to me initially, because he was so nice and so polite. Doesn't speak very much English, so we were talking through a translator, and then we started talking to the translator at the weigh-ins, and just the nicest guy. Like he was super good to me before the fight, after the fight. Congratulated me. He wished me success, and
Mm-hmm.
said I fought a great fight, and he didn't say anything bad or anything. So he's a true martial artist in his own sense. He's creative, and he's I hope he finds a successful path to the top, because I'm not in that division.
Yeah, and that kind of brings in my next question. So you fought him at welterweight, but you do naturally fight a lightweight. So what weight do you feel better at?
Definitely not welterweight. Because of the last couple of months, I've been dieting like crazy. I'm thinking of trying to make a run at featherweight. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if after I recover from the neck injury, I've kind of done like I'm lighter now than I've been in 10 years.
Okay.
I've been, just because the one thing I've been able to do is a lot of sort of shadow boxing, hitting the bags, hitting mitts. So I've just been eating really clean, dieting a lot. So I'm at a point where I could make 155 easier than I ever have. And I might, if I can recover and start training 100%, and not without gaining a whole bunch of weight, I might be able to make one at featherweight. So I'll judge that once I'm in fight camp and where I'm at. But I
Okay.
think I might be able to do at least one or two. But again, I don't want to make any promises. But I definitely think I'll end up either way. I'll end up back at lightweight. I think part of the reason that I've lost weight is I haven't been able to lift weights really in
Right.
a long time. So maybe once I start lifting heavy again, I start putting that weight back on it. I don't know.
Okay. And I mean, at lightweight, you were supposed to fight Alex da Silva,
Yeah.
but due to the coronavirus, didn't happen. So was it you that got it, or was it Alex that had the
No,
coronavirus?
neither of us got it. It's just they canceled the whole card.
Oh, shoot.
They
Okay.
so that it was 3 weeks out when it happened. I don't know, maybe you got it. I don't know, but I didn't get it. I know that much. But he's in Brazil. I know the numbers there aren't great, but no, I don't think he did. It was just, we were one of the canceled cards, because I was
Oh,
in
okay. Yeah,
Vegas
that's right. That's
training.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in Vegas training, and we were watching like NBA, NHL, and everything getting. And I was like, UFC, it's not happening. UFC's not canceling. They're gonna keep things going. And so me and my buddy Cole Smith, we were down there training and getting ready. I was feeling great, and then whole world shut down. We had to go home. Then this injury blew up, and I've been chasing it ever since.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, fight didn't happen. It's obviously it's frustrating. I mean, I'm sure you were looking forward to fight.
I will.
Um,
Yeah.
but so when that does happen, do they compensate you for any of that?
Not in this case. Because it's far enough out, and it's
They
what they
should
call,
have.
yeah, an act of God clause in the contract. So they took care of a lot of guys that had, because they canceled a few cards. I believe they took care of a lot of the guys that were on the card, like the London card that was canceled. Um, but the most of the guys, they just rescheduled right away, so they didn't actually postpone the card. And I would have gotten another fight. It was just because of my injury that I'm not. So they would have rescheduled me right away. So
Okay.
kind of from them, it's it's not their fault that I wasn't able to fight again a month later or 2 months
Right.
later, whatever it was. I know it was probably a bit longer than that. I can't really remember, but
Hmm.
um, so in my case, it's kind of a unique position. I would have been rescheduled right away. They would have got me fighting. They would have made that up. The way our contracts work is they guarantee us 3 fights a year. So
Right.
if we miss a fight, as long as they can make that up, we're good. And
Okay.
so it because of other reasons that's outside that, they'll help me get back. Like I say, they're going to help me recover. They're going to do a lot for me, but it's not their job for them to make me accept fights when I'm injured.
Right. So the contract that you signed, it was a 4 or 5 fight
For
contract? 4? Okay,
yeah,
that's pretty standard, right?
standard. Yeah, I don't know of anyone that's ever brought in on anything other than that.
Yeah.
Until you're a rank like that. Once you're a ranked guy, then maybe I think I know guys get longer contracts, but um, I pretty standard. They gotta. I don't think unless you're a huge name, they'll ever bring you anyone other than the standard contract.
Well, unless you're GSP and you want to come in for a title fight and then get out.
Yeah, well, then you can sign a million fight contract because you know you're not fighting again.
Yeah.
But I think GSP is already under contract.
Yeah.
Um, but the way I think it works with the guys like him is it's so long because when you retire, your contract becomes paused, so you can't wait it out. You have to stay active and you have to stay ready to ready to fight. And if you turn down fights, I believe I'm not really sure, but I believe if you turn down a fight while you're active, um, they if you do that, like I don't think they do, but if you were to just look like you're trying to play it out, they can probably extend your contract by off those things. So you
Right.
really, you really, I think GSP like he retires and he comes back and then he renegotiates a new contract is what they do. So it's been so
Yeah.
long and it's like, hey, if you guys want me to fight, I'm happy, but we just need to come with a new contract because that's the way I think it happens. Is the contracts are still there, but then they just get a new. They just renegotiate a contract to re-sign on top of that one if it's been enough time, and that's kind of what GSPs are doing, I think.
Right. Now, now obviously you need time to retire and you need to or sorry, I'm
Recover.
mixing my words
Now we're
today.
not retiring. Get out of here.
You need time to recover and to recover from your injury. But when you come back and I don't want to you know shoot into the future right this second, but say you recover and you're feeling good, you're ready to fight, you've been training. Is there anyone in mind that you would like to fight?
Honestly, I would still like to fight Alex if I'm fighting at
Okay.
lightweight. I would like to fight Alex because I feel like we're so close. We put in a camp for each other, and I just feel like we deserve to punch each other in the face. So that would be great. Other than that, there's I've never been one that's like I want to fight this guy, I want to fight that guy. I just want to fight. So it doesn't matter who's in front of me. I'll fight anyone. There's a lot of guys in the 145 division that would be fun matchups. A lot of guys in the 155 division that would be good matchups.
Hmm.
So I'll let the UFC decide and make it easy for them. So
Right.
if there's someone I don't like, then maybe I will call him out. But that you know what, I've just never been that kind of guy. I've never fought out of anger. I've always fought out of love. So people always say, why do you have to fight? Can't you love instead? It's like, well, I love fighting. What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, it's no secret that the lightweight division is just stacked right now. I
Oh,
mean,
stacked. Yeah.
insanely stacked. I mean, not just like I mean, I think all divisions have been very equally
They have been. They have been.
stacked. The last year, maybe a year and a half.
Mhm.
You got a lot of different styles, a lot of different fighters coming in and really making it interesting.
I
I mean,
think
I
it is a
can't say
lot of the guys that have grown up with MMA are now getting into their prime. I think is
yes,
what's happening. So you're seeing a lot of people that have been doing mixed martial arts since they were kids, and now they're getting to 25, 30
yes.
range, and it's showing. It's showing.
It is, and when you watch a lot of the interviews with a lot of these guys or female fighters, they talk about, yeah, I'm using for example, I've been doing karate since I was like 8, or I've been doing BJJ since I was a teenager, and then that's how I got into MMA or whatever. So I think with that, like you said, you're starting to see that show now,
Yeah,
and that's why it's so competitive. And I think it's like to be at the top, you have to beat the best of the best to be the best, or you have to get through all these tough guys just to get to the championship. There's
yeah.
no
Oh,
leapfrogging to
there's
the
so many
gold.
champions and so many guys that because it's it's not. I mean, yeah, I'm sure boxing, kickboxing is the same. But there's so many ways. Oh, there's not really. I mean, you got Khabib, but like
Hey man,
Feel like I
you're cutting.
all the time. You know, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, you were cutting
Yeah.
out there for a second.
Sorry, yeah. The champ. No one's really like a champ all the time. I mean, so far Khabib and
No,
John Jones have done it, but it's for the most part, you got a champion. You got your champions, but there's always a way to beat that champ. There's always Achilles
100%.
heel, right? And so, with boxing, it's a little different. Don't get hit and hit the person. It's all we got to worry about. Obviously, there's different styles of boxing and everything and all that, but there's so much variability with an MMA. It's just so hard to cover all your bases against all
Hmm.
styles. And that's why you don't see people reign for these long times like you
No.
do in boxing or kickboxing.
Well, and yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I can't like there's some divisions where the champion has been changed so many times. I mean,
Strong, yeah,
you look at the women's strawweight, like the last year and a half, maybe it's been the
yeah, it's going
belt's
through.
been handed over so many times.
And
Uh,
the women's divisions are, they're kind of where the men's divisions were probably 5-10 years ago, right? So you're
yeah.
starting to see they're starting to catch up. Um,
Yes.
and so that's why I think you're seeing there's going to be a lot more turnover, and I believe we will, as time goes on, see more champions that do reign supreme
Yes.
over the time, because people will start to figure it out. The sport's so new that it's so evolving so dynamically that it'll start to settle. I think at some point where we'll be like, okay, this is pretty much the best way to do it,
Hmm.
or these are the best ways to do it, and that those guys that are masters of that will end up starting to reign a little longer, I think.
100%. And I think but then there's some champions right now, and I can't, I don't want to rip on the women's feather, or not feather, but sorry, I can't even talk today. I had a long night. I'm still
Fair
probably in
enough.
the process of waking up. Yeah, with the women's flyweight division, I mean, it's no secret that the division is not fully formed yet. But I mean,
No.
you look at a fighter like Valentina, and I think with champions like that, you have to, in my opinion, you have to be very well rounded like she is. And
Mhm.
you watch how she fights every person, and it's like she's not uncomfortable anywhere. I mean, she's had tough fights, no
Yeah, no,
doubt,
for
and you've
sure.
seen her cautious with certain fighters like Liz Carmouche. I found she was very cautious with her. But you look with her, Amanda Nunes, I think she beat her the second fight. And she hangs, it doesn't look like she's ever uncomfortable. And you watch some champions that have fallen, and you watch how people find the game plan to beat them.
Yeah.
For example, in lightweight, I mean, you had Connor, who became two-weight division champ, but I mean, Diaz was the one to figure him out.
Yeah.
It was just the cardio aspect, and
Who
like
knows if he started to believe his own hype a little too much. There's always a little bit of that.
yeah.
It is a saying, it's hard to become champion, harder to stay champion, and it
Hmm.
it, it it's true. The motivation doesn't always stay the same once you make it there. I know I talked to
Yes.
my friend Gabriel Varga, who was two-time glory kickboxing champion, and he said, after he won the belt, his motivation just dropped. He's like, well,
Right.
now I've worked my whole life. This is for him. There was nothing higher, right? Glory at the time, glory. There was ONE FC wasn't there, Bellator kickboxing wasn't there, and glory was it. And he's like, what do I do? Like, he's kind of didn't know what to do with himself, because his goal was to be world champion. Well, now he's world champion. What next? Like, so, and
Right.
then I think he lost the next fight, and he said his heart just wasn't in it. But then that losing that next fight
Yeah.
reignited the fire. And he's like, man, I want to be world champion, right? He lost what he had. So uh, I can see that it's harder to just maintain the mental aspect of getting after it every day. Like, this guy wants to take this from me. I like is when you're like, I want to take this from someone. You're hungry. You're like, well, now you've fed. You got to stay hungry, and that you have to work at that, I think, once you're there.
Oh, absolutely. And Yeah, and I think and you bringing back what you said about yourself, how you are mentally strong, and I think that really does bring a big factor in fighting as well.
Oh, for
You can be
sure.
skilled with your hands all you want,
Mm-hmm.
um, but at the end of the day, you have to be mentally strong. You have to be, and I'll use an example with Israel Adesanya, and it was him and I'm trying to remember who he fought, Kelvin Gastelum. And in
Mm-hmm.
that fight, you could see the mental toughness he had in that
Yeah.
fifth round where he finished that fight. He could have easily been, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I've been fighting a guy that actually put up a fight with me. I've lost a round, but he looked at it, he's like, I'm prepared to die in there. And he literally said that in the cage.
That's
And
that's actually what I tell myself every time before I fight, ready to die, ready to kill. Obviously I don't want to die, I don't want to kill the person, but you can't give yourself any thoughts other than that. Anything other than that's just gonna have a detrimental effect on your performance, right? So
mhm,
you have to your brain, when you go into a fight, you go into your fight or flight mode. You're going into survival mode. You're going to war. So they treat it, and you should try and treat it like when you're going in there, like, okay, this is just for fun, for sport. And you can't. You're not. You're going to hesitate. It's a moment's hesitation that ends you, right? You have to be ready for everything, willing to accept it all, and that's gonna. And again, that's not like you really want that, but that's how you're going to become who you need to be in there and perform the way you need to perform. Your skills are developed in the gym. You practice, you train, but you need to let yourself utilize all those skills to the fullest. And the only way to do that is to put absolutely no roadblocks and say, this is it. I'm ready to die and ready to kill, and go in there and let your skills do their job.
absolutely. Um, Now, what makes you a threat to the lightweight division?
Uh, the fact that I'm not stopping, you're not going to break me. That's the one thing is, I always say I look to break guys. A knockout, a submission, a quick knockout or submission, a slick submission is great, but it's always better when I like a TKO or like a submission where like a rear naked choke where you've beaten them down, you've taken their back, and then you've given you the choke, because that means they quit. So I
Mhm.
I always like I look to break the person. I'm not going to break. I'm not going to stop. You might beat me, but you're going to be in a fight at the very best. I can promise that.
That's awesome, man. Now, obviously there's the upcoming fight with Justin Gaethje and Khabib
Oh,
Nurmagomedov.
yeah.
You being in the lightweight division, what do you think it takes to beat a guy like Khabib? Like, what do you think you would need in order to beat the guy?
I mean, he can be knocked out. He can totally be knocked out.
Yeah.
Khabib, like, he bleeds red like the rest of us. Khabib is that guy again. He is ready to die, ready to kill to the max. That guy you'll have to knock him out. I don't think you're gonna like you or choke him out, but he's such a good grappler that's gonna be really, really hard. Um, maybe someone with really, really good jujitsu might beat
Hmm.
him sometimes. Like I could see that someone that he might beat 9 out of 10 times might beat him once. That just has really slick jiu-jitsu. Because there's guys that it's like you would start to roll with them a lot, and it's like, okay, when you first start rolling them, they catch you a bunch, and then after a little while, they don't anymore. I feel like something like that maybe could catch him because Khabib would take him down and probably maul them mostly, but then maybe he moves a lot, he makes a poor reaction and gets caught in something.
Yeah.
I don't think you could break his arm. I don't think he's gonna tap. I think you need to choke that guy out. Um, but Gagey, man, is an interesting guy. I've been a fan of Gagey since way before he was in the UFC. The first time I went to the PI, I went with my buddy Jeremy Kennedy when it first opened, and there's all these UFC fighters walking around, and my buddy's like, oh, this is so and so and so and so, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then Justin Gaethje walks in to the change room, and it was like 2 days before weigh-ins for the Michael Johnson fight. Justin
Yeah.
Gaethje, and people are like, who the fuck is that? I'm like, you don't know who Justin Gaethje is? And they're like, oh my god, you guys, this guy is the craziest fighter. I used to say, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I would. Back then, I'm like, I'll fight anyone in the UFC right now. Justin Gaethje is the only guy I didn't want to fight. I'm like, you've seen this guy fight. He's a nut job. All he does is kung
Oh
fu.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I think he's even crazier before, like as far as the way he fought. Like now he's actually, I mean, he still fights crazy, but he's much, much more skilled. He's much more evolved. He's much smarter. Back in the day, he literally just walked forward and chucked kicks and punches without, he didn't even block really. He just nonstop go crazy. So I've been a fan of his for a long time. And, you know, we haven't seen him wrestle a lot because he's not, he's just, no one's tried to wrestle him really very much, and I haven't seen him try and wrestle anyone. But we hear that he's an amazing wrestler. Like we know his credentials are there. I've heard in the gym he's a crazy wrestler. So, I mean, time will tell. Like, does he have the ability to shut down Khabib? Maybe he does. And if he does, I think Khabib's in trouble because Justin's striking is much better than Khabib's. I believe. I believe Khabib's wrestling's better, but is Justin's wrestling good enough to shut him down?
Yeah,
It's that's the fight of the year right now. You know, like that. I can't think of anything more exciting than that fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you currently are you gonna be watching the fights tonight?
Yeah, I'll watch him tonight. Definitely, I'll order the pay-per-view here and sit back and watch him.
What's your prediction with Miocic and Cormier?
I think Cormier is going to do it. I do.
I do too.
The reason I say that, well, he won the first fight. I think he was winning the second fight for the majority of the fight. But now Stipe, he fought smart. He worked that body a lot, and ended up catching up with him, and he won no question. He won the fight. He looked great, but I kind of thought that more of the fight was won by DC. So if we were to keep going, if the fight was to go to decision, I think DC would have won it. So I think that, either of them can finish each other. So that's on the table for both of them. So I'm looking, well, what if they don't finish each other? Who's going to win it? I think DC is going to win it. So that puts more odds. And I think they're both just as likely to finish each other. Like, I think they both have a very, like, they're heavyweights, they're big guys. Like, they could both put each other away. There's probably a 50% chance of that, and then a 50% chance if it goes to decision. So I know I'm 150, but I'm just saying, I'm saying, like, if it's finished 50-50 either way, but then I think it's probably more 75-25 for DC on the decision end of it.
Yeah, and I think what DC needs to watch is if he's going to try grabbing the hands again, I think he needs to remind himself about Miocic, the way he dips and how he was dipping when they were like when DC was like holding the Stipe's hands, but Stipe would dip over and give him those liver shots, and he kept doing it over and over, and I don't know if it was because DC was just tired. I think that might have been the case. Like he wasn't catching those liver shots. So I don't know if it's it was just a mistake. And
you'll have to also give Stipe credit for probably something he saw in the first fight, and it was something they had worked, and it won the fight for him. And like I say, I thought DC was winning the fight overall, but sometimes it's that long-term investment of okay, I'm okay, happy. Like I was fighting Michel, I was sad. I was like, I'm probably going to lose the first round. Like, even though I think I actually got the first round in the judges' scorecards, but I was like, I'm probably going to lose the first round because he's a big, strong guy. But all I can do is invest in tiring him out. So I don't need to win that first round. I just need to tire him out. And that was kind of my mindset going in. So I'm sure, Stipe's mindset, I mean, like even if he's touching us up a bit and he's kind of getting the better of us, as long as let's work that body, we think going into those later rounds it will pay dividends, and it did. So who knows what they talked about, whether it was fluke or planned. I mean, I imagine that he probably planned it to an extent. I mean, rarely is anything ever like, this is how it's going to be, but you have plans, right? And that was probably one of the plans.
Well, I've seen so many comments on social media about Cormier like not being in the fighter shape and all this, and I kind of I took a jab at some of the fans. I said, you know what? I mean, how about you see an average 41-year-old man in that kind of shape go out and do 4 or 5 rounds with a monster like Stipe?
Yeah, how about 30 seconds?
I'll wait.
How about 30 seconds with an amateur MMA fighter that's not even that weight? That's a weight class below him. I'd like to see that. They will be gassed before they even throw first punch. They're going to be tired and nervous before anything happens. Then they're going to get into one little grappling scuffle, and they're going to be so out of breath they're going to start vomiting. and then they're gonna get the shit kicked out of them. That's how it's gonna go.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like, I remember when I first started training in MMA, I have a black belt in Shotokan, so I had a little bit of fighting experience. But I think the first time I got to get thrown around like a rag doll, I was like, oh shit, okay, this is what it's like. All right.
Different.
And
It's different.
it is. It's totally different, different feeling. And yeah, and I think like, and that's, fans, they can say whatever they want, but I guess what people need to realize is that, hey, you don't really understand what's going on in the cage until you actually do it yourself, or you are in those
Mhm.
situations and you understand. Like, that's why I love training in it, because I like training, and then when I go watch fights, I can see what's going to happen before they happen. So I shit, the last fight that, what was it? It was it was the heavyweights, Alexei Oleinik
Oh
and
yeah,
Derek
yeah.
Lewis. And what Alexei Oleinik was trying to do with Derek Lewis, I was calling it every single thing that he was trying to do.
His little diaphragm choke that he does, the Scarface
Yeah,
choke.
yeah.
Yeah,
And every single thing he was trying to do, and they were calling it at the same time. I was like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
it's
fun. It's
nice
that
to kind
that's a
of,
pretty that choke. That's what he's doing. I've only seen a few people. I do it sometimes. I can only the thing about that is I can only do it to people my size or smaller. And my coach, Adam Ryan, he would do that to me all the time back in the day, and I
right.
just miserable. Like, cause what it is, he's not actually choking you. It's a diaphragm choke. He stops you from being able to lift your diaphragm. So it's like you can't breathe, but you can't figure out why. Because people think sort of the air going in their mouth, but it's the diaphragm that pulls away. So by
Yeah.
putting pressure on the diaphragm, they don't. It's a way. I've never seen anyone else do it in MMA. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I know what he's doing, but I know lots of black belts that are like, what is that? Like
And the guy's still doing it at like, what, 44, 45 years old?
44, I think. Yeah, I'm still
Savage.
looking good, man. Like, yeah, he lost, but that was to a monster. Derek Lewis
Hmm.
is he's the black beast, man. The guy,
Yeah.
and he won the first round, and he just, he ate a big shot from a big guy. What can you do, right? That's gonna put any of us away. I hate it when people are like, oh, you know, he should retire because he lost to one of the best in the world. Okay, then how about the 30-year-old that guy just beat? Should he retire too? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he should or shouldn't retire, but if he's feeling good and he's winning fights, and um, well, I'm all for it. Though to be fair, watching Alexi walk around the PI, he looks like he's all kinds of broken.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I heard him
Absolutely.
talking. He's like, their PI is like, they're like his knee wouldn't straighten, and he's like, they're like, why isn't your knee straight? He's like, oh, it doesn't straighten. He's like, doesn't hurt, just doesn't straighten. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're kind of coming up on time here, so
Yeah,
Tristan,
yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for taking your time to come on the show here, and coming on the podcast to talk about yourself and your career. And I wanted to make sure that you heal up great, and have a quick recovery, and hopefully we'll see you back in there, eh?
Sounds good, man. Thanks for the call, Luke, and we'll do it again sometime.
Alrighty.